A strong line of storms came through, packing a punch and bringing it with it heavy rain. Almost instantly, there was flash flooding and some damage. We'll get to that in a minute, but first, a threat remains overnight. And that's where we start tonight. Storm Tracker 6 Chief Meteorologist Chris Kubal joins us. Chris, it's been a busy night for you, and it could be a busy night for a lot of people with flooded basements.
Yeah, still raining. We're hearing a lot of that, too. Flooded basements, flooded roadways, and flash flooding. The big problem across the area remaining earlier was the damaging winds along this line that traversed the area from about 6:30 through 9 o'clock. Still, though, in the last few frames, you see light to moderate rainfall still falling across the area. Not good, but thankfully not the heaviest rainfall, which is avoiding the area well to our south and to our west. But this is the blow-off moisture, so to speak, coming off the tops of those thunderstorms. So this rain is going to be fairly persistent overnight and into tomorrow morning. A couple of flash flood warnings in place, a good chunk of the area dealing with inundated basements, roadways, ditches, a flood warning up and down I-35, including Steele, Waseca, and also Freeborn counties. These are going to persist until various hours of the morning, tomorrow morning. There are going to be several areas that are going to be flooded over, several roads, including Main Street and Albert Lee. I need to stress this so much. You do not drive through flooded areas. In fact, some places you will not know if the road is even still there. So why take the chance? There's nothing that impactful that you need to drive through those flooded areas. Find another way around. So it begs the question, what's going to happen to all this water once it makes it to the rivers? Well, they are on a steep rise. We're expecting some minor flooding into a couple of locations. The Cedar River comes into mind, Turtle Creek and Austin, expecting to see minor flooding by tomorrow morning. The Zumbro on a sharp rise in the Rochester area too. So we're going to keep a close track on those river levels. If you do live near a river or creek or a low-lying area, do take note that those rivers are going to be sharply rising here overnight. Look at all the blue dots. That's either a wind gust or damage, and a couple of tornado confirmed reports in parts of north central Iowa. Here's a sampling of some of the strongest winds we have observed here this evening, estimated in 60 miles per hour in Austin, Saratoga, topping the list at 71. So it is over with those wind gusts, but it did do some damage. Maple Island, a roof torn off the building there, and some trees uprooted. Coming up, we're going to talk more about this flooding threat through the rest of tonight and what's on the way for tomorrow and Wednesday.
Thank you, Chris. And one of the things we noticed about this storm was the rain came so fast it caught many off guard.
Yeah, and the rain came hard. This delivery driver from Godfather's Pizza in Rochester was stuck in water. That water was up to the car's steering wheel. This was along 16th Street Southeast around 8:30 tonight. A tow truck driver tried to walk through the water to get to the car to help, but he didn't fare too well either. You can see the construction markers as well, and that construction only seemed to add to the water depth in that area, making things even worse. A similar scene over in Caston. Roads have been closed off in downtown and some residential areas there. Emergency vehicles blocking the way. One of our co-workers who lives there calls it some of the worst he's seen in years. We have learned within the past hour, citywide power outages in the Caston area have been taken care of and the power is restored.
Freeborn County also hit hard by the storm. Thanks to our viewer Paul Dahl for sending this in. Rescue crews in Albert Lee were working to save cars flooded out. The entrance to the fairgrounds filled with water, and with all that rain and strong winds, large trees like this one also toppled over. A similar scene played out in many of our communities.
Yeah, it was much of the same in and around Austin, with reports of fallen trees, down power lines, and flooding coming in from all parts of our viewing area. Earlier, we sent John Deckott out to survey some of the damage.
When the storm first hit, it was simply too dangerous for us to venture further than our station's front door.
Right now, the rain is just coming down in sheets, pouring out here. As you can see, some of the water is starting already to pool up in this parking lot. The sky has turned an ominous green color, and that wind is just howling.
As the storm passed through, it dropped torrential rains, making for dangerous driving conditions. Part of 218 in Austin was covered with water, creating a hazard for drivers trying to make their way to shelter. And just down the road, still on 218, a semi rolled over partway into the ditch. Authorities said wet roads were a possible contributing factor, but fierce straight-line winds likely just forced the truck right off the road. In Austin, John Deckott, ABC 6 News.
And of course, right now, utility crews are working very, very hard to restore all the power, but right now, thousands of people remain in the dark in southern Minnesota and northern Iowa. More than 26,000 Alliant Energy customers don't have power. Most of those locally are in Freeborn, Cerro Gordo County, Winnebago, Worth, and Wright counties. Mark Freeborn Cooperative reports around 261 outages and 96 for People's Energy Cooperative. Austin Utilities reports fewer than a dozen outages, and RPU says there are some outages in a northwest Rochester neighborhood.
The storm, much larger than just our area, though. A small northwestern Iowa town has largely avoided a mass disaster thanks to a community effort. After this weekend's strong rains in Minnesota, the town of Rock Rapids, Iowa got to work sandbagging. Concern was over the Rock River bringing floodwaters south. Early today, the river crested about 11 feet above flood stage.
We have some houses here in town that have water in their basements all the way to their main floor, but it could have been a whole lot worse.
So as you heard, some homes are flooded, but thanks to that sandbagging, the impact was reduced. A flood warning for that area remains through much of the week as water recedes.
And while we had some tornado reports in our region, Nebraska got two at once. Check out this amazing video captured by storm chasers. This is in the northeast part of the state. There are reports of massive damage to homes and businesses. There are also reports of injuries, although it's still unclear as to the extent. And a great way to stay informed is with ABC 6 News Now app. If you lose power, you can stay up to date from your mobile device. Best of all, it's free, so if you don't have it yet, now is the time to get it.
In other news this evening, police believe they have their vandals. As we showed you last week, a bunch of cars and homes in northwest Austin were painted with gang symbols in the overnight hours, sometime Thursday into Friday morning. Police didn't believe it was necessarily gang-related. Now, Austin police have arrested 3 people, an adult and 2 kids. They could face felony charges.
Some good coming out of a very bad situation. We've learned Rochester nonprofits will be receiving thousands of dollars, and it all stems from the Penn State sex abuse scandal. We talk with the programs in our area receiving the unexpected funding, and they tell us it comes as a wonderful surprise.
It's a wonderful day.
YMCA's Executive Director Steve Kortz received some exciting news Monday. They're receiving nearly $26,000 from the University of Minnesota Rochester.
Anytime you get a gift like that that isn't planned for, is unbudgeted, is absolutely wonderful.
It's part of the millions of dollars being forfeited from Penn State University from the Jerry Sandusky case. The funds are part of the sanctions from the school's share of the Big Ten Bowl revenues from 2012 to 2016. The total for this year, $2.76 million, of which the University of Minnesota is getting $230,000. And this year, University President Eric Kaler is sharing the funding with its 5 campuses, including Rochester. UMR is getting nearly $46,000. The school will divide that among 3 charities that support youth. The Rochester Area Family Y will get nearly $26,000. The Boys and Girls Club, $10,000, and another $10,000 to the United Way of Olmsted County.
I'm very confident that those resources that are being invested in those 3 organizations will be well used.
Knowing the circumstances in which the money came to us from, I understand that there is some controversy surrounding that. From our perspective is we're happy to put those funds to good use.
The Boys and Girls Club will use their funding towards program operations, focusing primarily on academic success.
We do lots of great things for kids every single day, and the more support we have, the more dynamic our programming can be.
As for the YMCA, the funding will add to the program's annual scholarship funding.
That's the money we give away to people who can't afford programs and membership. I think that's a win-win for both the university and for the organizations they're helping.
In a statement, University President Eric Kaler says these are our state's future teachers, scientists, medical professionals, and leaders, and this is another fantastic opportunity to partner with communities. In all, 18 youth-oriented charities across the state will benefit from this funding.
The Rochester City Council is looking at implementing a new panhandling ordinance. There have been several complaints from the public that panhandlers in downtown are being too aggressive, especially in areas like Peace Plaza and outdoor patios. Rochester has yet to regulate panhandlers, with city officials saying up to this point, those sitting peacefully with signs haven't been violating any laws.
It's when they go beyond that and start walking into the street or approaching people and talking to them or using language to intimidate them, then they've gone beyond the protection of the Constitution, and now they're intimidating people. That we can regulate.
The issue was discussed at today's Committee of the Whole meeting. We'll keep you updated on future progress.
Still to come, we'll have more from tonight's powerful storm, including more pictures from our viewers.
Yeah, we have a lot of those. But first, a very cool story from one of the most recognizable brands in the entire world, how Starbucks is stepping up to help thousands of its employees.